Good morning and welcome back. Another beauty sleep done, but it's time to get up. No need to go on. When you untie the lines and leave the so-called civilization, it takes at least a day or two to get rid of all that overclocking and reset your brain to factory settings. And maybe even do a cold boot too in the morning in the sea, or an early morning quiet dinghy ride to an island nearby. In episode 19 I said, one of the islands in this view is special in a way unlike any other island in the world. What was I talking about? It's time to find out. And no, it's not this one. Looking for a good spot to get ashore, I mean fill my boots with water. Yet another haven of peace and quiet. I'm just visiting, don't worry. But why is there a stone pyramid standing on a little island in the middle of nowhere? To understand why, we have to move over 100 nautical miles southwest to the capital of Sweden and go back in time almost 130 years. On a Thursday morning, the 19th of October 1893, a huge balloon takes off from Stockholm. It's carrying the Swedish engineer, explorer, and balloonist Salomon August Andrée. He's testing his newly acquired hydrogen balloon named Svea. She contains just over 1,000 cubic meters of hydrogen, so she's not a hot air balloon. This is his third test flight. In this kind of an aircraft, the altitude is controlled by weight. If you want to fly higher, you have to drop some ballast, for example sand. To descend, you just have to vent gas from the balloon. Steering such an aircraft is next to impossible, and in practice, the pilot is at the mercy of the winds, which this morning blow from southwest. So, Svea is heading towards Finland with her one-man crew. About an hour after takeoff, Andrée is forced to descend to only 15 meters due to fog. While flying over the Baltic Sea, with a rope hanging from the gondola, he attempts to land on several oncoming ships, but fails. Hanging from a huge ball of extremely flammable gas is now the least of his worries. Moreover, Svea, like the rest of her kind, loves to leak hydrogen in her spare time. About 10 hours into the flight, and with October sunlight fading away fast, he approaches the island of Brunskär in the Finnish archipelago. Suddenly he sees a light in a window and decides to descend by venting gas from the balloon. The window belongs to fisherman Edvard Danielsson and his wife Fina, who glances through the window and sees something really big move past the view. Edward rushes out to see what's going on and hears a male voice somewhere above him shouting, "Det går klart för land." Then the dark shape disappears towards northeast. This is too much for Fina, who thinks Judgment Day has come. You know, clouds talking and everything. Meanwhile, Andrée misses Brunskär, and in almost total darkness, crashes to a small uninhabited island 1.5 nautical miles northeast. can't hold on to the balloon, he has to let it go, and so Svea continues northeast, now one Swedish engineer lighter. The night is long and cold. Andrée's feet are badly injured. He's wearing just a tailcoat and a white handkerchief on his head, having lost his hat, and he has to make a distress flag out of his underpants. That night, the Danielssons don't sleep well. First thing in the morning, Edward takes his telescope and climbs to the highest point of the island. To the northeast, a mile or two away, on a small island, he sees a strange flag and a man with a white hat. He grabs his boat and sails to the island named Eskören and wonders aloud what's going on. A man alone here with no boat. Luckily the alien and Edward speak the same language. Ja, jag måste släppa den djävulen, replied Andrée, meaning I had to let that devil go. So Edward rescues Andrée to his house and introduces this very special guest to Fina. Svea had travelled a further 3.5 miles to Espholm and got stuck in trees. The local dude had found her and first didn't want to just give it back, but wanted a reward. Edward had to haul the injured engineer to the site to explain what had happened. After that, the guy settled for 60 marks, a rope and binoculars. 2 days later, the pilot ship Åland came to fetch Andrée and Svea to Turku, from where he continued home, his legs permitting. Later, Andrée commented his flight. All in all, the journey was pleasant and most interesting. A month later, Andrée wrote a letter to Edvard and Fina, thanking them for his rescue. Edward was rewarded 500 marks for saving Andrée by Stockholm journalists. Some people would have taken this journey as a hint, but no true explorer. Andrée continued his projects, and 4 years later, on July the 11th, 1897, he took off to fly to the North Pole with a much bigger balloon called the Eagle, with 2 companions. That didn't end well. Their remains weren't found until August the 6th in 1930 on White Island, and were brought to Stockholm, where Andrée was buried on October the 5th, along with his crew, Nils Strindberg and Knut Fraenkel. There's a link to the film of their funeral in the description. Shortly after Andrée's funeral, a memorial was built by scouts on Eskören, where Andrée crashed. There's a link below to Edvard Danielsson's granddaughter's interview. Her father, Hugo, was 5 at the time. If you want to know more about Andrée's last expedition, there's a very detailed account in Bea Uusma's book. Link in the description. You might say he was an accident looking for a place to happen. However, this bold flight alone made him nothing less than the first man ever to arrive in Finland by air, and proved that an innocent-looking little island in the middle of nowhere can become a piece of aviation history. Since then, a lot of Swedes have been doing what Andrée started, after realizing that tailcoats weren't compulsory when flying to Finland. Time to say goodbye to this island, but I have a feeling I will return, maybe to look for the red metal box and the camera that Andrée writes he lost in the crash. Oh, one more thing. Eskären is also known by another name. Yes, you guessed it. Andrée. Thank you for watching. Take care and see you next time.